today's video, I'm going to cover everything stealth and sneak. So what you need to know is that when you talk about a sneak strategy, what sneak does is it is a melee monster or melee monster, depends on how you want to pronounce it, that basically instead of attacking the first minion, it will always attack the last. So instead of winning front to back, you're going to win back to front by destroying their weaker, squishier cards, and then the last thing that you should be killing is their big frontline tank. When you play a sneak strategy, it is typically best to use it in sub 20 mana games, maybe 23. And then basically what you want is you want a 4 to 6 mana frontline tank. So if you do 23 mana, you then have 17 left. 3 to 4 mana on your summoner, which would then take you down to like 12 or 13. And then you've got 12 mana left, and then you kind of want to put in like 4 really cheap sneak little monsters like this Cobalt Miner, and then you'll have 1 tank and then maybe like a fiend or a chicken to basically take extra hits, and then you've got 4 really squishy melee monsters that will just then quickly attack the back line. But if you think about it, 4 monsters attacking every turn the last monster of the enemy, you basically guarantee that you'll kill 1 to 2 monsters in the back, because typically there'll be very squishy archer cards maybe and other things like that. Alongside the sneak, you can pair it with opportunity. So opportunity works a bit different because they normally will attack the monster that has the lowest health, but normally they work quite well because, as we said, the squishier, lower HP monsters are like closer to the back than the front. So I think the first thing to do is quickly show you guys which elements I would recommend playing with stealth and with sneak, because it's not for every element. I'll give you an example. So like death. Death is probably my favorite element and my favorite splinter. But when it comes to running a cheesy sneak like strategy, the problem with it is it's better to just rather counter your opponent. That's how death's meant to be played. You're meant to go, okay, with this mana and with these elements banned and with your opponent's last played, I think you're going to be playing magic. I think you're going to play like, I don't know, General Sloan and an archer strategy. I think you're going to be like, you can guess that the enemy is going to be doing a sneak attack, and then you're going to just nerf them or nerf them with a crypt miner. But the thing is, because you nerf them, it doesn't mean that you have to commit to a stealth strategy. It means that you can fill up your board with a strong tank, magic cards, archer cards. Like, it allows you to be more flexible instead of tunneling in on one strategy. You're basically just going to guarantee that you can counter your opponent's strategy. So typically, even though death has some good monsters, and I'll show you guys those now, so things like the skeleton assassin, things like the undead badger, and then also the opportunity card, which should be all cards, the maggots. So there are cards that could essentially be in a stealth strategy. It's things, it's like a little bit weird because, like, if you get playing the skeleton assassin and you want to do poison, and because of its quick speed it attacks first, then it's a little bit awkward because your other stealth monsters and sneak monsters will then attack, and then that poison will go to waste, where it would be better to just have tanks and magic cards and then even include the skeleton assassin, let him attack the back monster, and then poison would then also do some damage. So then you can get more utilization out of the poison and other cards. So yeah, I would take death out. The other thing that I would take out would be earth. I love earth. Once again, there are sneak monsters. You've got your goblin thief, which also has shatter, which is pretty good. And then you've got 2 good opportunity cards. You've got the vulture as well as the scout. So there is definitely playable. Like, you can, and they're all 3, 4. The problem is it's not really how Earth wants to be played. You'd rather just, like, if you look at the summoners, the only thing that would work with like lots of melee cards is your Wizard of the Eastwood, and then you pray that you can take away their armor, and then your monsters will then attack. But Earth kind of wants to just play big health tanks, magic cards. So I would rather say drop the idea of playing sneak and rather play magic or play like tank with liner. Like, yeah, I wouldn't recommend Earth sneaks. I will say that the best card in the game to counter sneaks, which I don't own, is Mila Crowling, because if you can get thorns, you're in such a good position. So if it's like a low mana game and the opponent goes a sneak strategy, this card will destroy it. So counter to sneak. The last element that you should not play sneak with is actually dragon. And it's for one really simple reason. As we said, we are going to, like, the first reason is that dragon actually doesn't help that much when it comes to monsters, because you either got like the Fiendish Harpy, or you'll have the Infiltrator, which is like, the Infiltrators look really cool. But for 4 mana, there's better uses of your mana. But it's not just 4 mana, because when you look at the summoners, you pay an extra mana to use dragon cards. So it's like, you could play like a Nebseni, but then you'd rather just play a Pyrie. You could play a Drake of Anarch, but then you'd rather just play a Thyrus. You could play a Dragon Scale for 4 mana, but you'd rather just play a Malric Inferno or a Tarsa and get extra HP. Yeah, the list kind of goes on. Like, you could like Quinks maybe for minus, but you'd rather than just play a Kyla and get the +1/+1. You could play the -3. So the -3 Camille Sunglaze is the only one, but because it's very similar to like a Zintar. But then at the end of the day, you'd squint your eyes and you go, we don't want to play death anyway. So with that in mind, we either have fire, water, or life. Which one of these 3 are the best? I'm going to let you decide. Personally, for me, it's water. But I can also make an argument for life. I don't actually think fire is the best, but fire is the one that's best built to do it, which is a little weird, but I'm going to explain that to you now. So with fire, you can honestly skip Malric Inferno unless you want that 1 extra mana point. But typically you go Tarsa, just 1 melee damage, 1 HP, turns your 3-4 tanks into a 4-5 tank like sneak monster. It's fantastic. Like, she's really good. If she's not available, you could go Pyrie for that extra speed. I wouldn't recommend Quid just for the piercing ability, because you typically will have, your 4 little monsters that go hit every round. So one of them will basically take away the armor, and then the other 3 would take away the HP and then take away its life. So I wouldn't recommend Quid. I'd rather just focus on the Tarsa or the Pyrie. But in general, I think she's the queen. I wouldn't even recommend Paldo. Like, Paldo kind of combines both of these together, but then maybe you can add a Paldo. But for 5 mana, it gets to the point where you're wasting little minions, and you'd rather have extra minions and monsters. So I'm not too sure, but Tarsa is always the one that I'd go for. Monster wise, you basically, like, for me, whenever I play a sneak strategy with fire, it's very, very simple. I always will pick the cheapest, best tank in the game, and I picked my Cerberus. So with Tarsa, he suddenly becomes a 5/9 with heal and retaliate. Then you drop in your Cobalt Miners, then you drop in your Serpian Spy, and then you're done. Like, yes, you could put in your Striker, for 5 more mana. But you put these two in, and then you have to go to neutral cards. Oops. And then you have to drop in a Elven Cutthroat for another 3 mana. And then there's also the Urasus, or Uras, I don't know, fuck. The snake. You put in the snake as well. Could consider something like the Parasitic Growth, but then you'd rather get the Striker, to be honest. So it's better to go the 2 cheap. So the 2 cheap is 6, plus Serpent Spy, 9, 11, plus the Cerberus, 15, and then plus a Tarsa, and then you suddenly add 19 mana, and that's a pretty unbeatable combo. So fire comes off at a heavy start. When it comes to water, if you look at the summoners, there's only one summoner that you ever want to use for a sneak strategy, which is definitely the Kyla. So when you look at her and you look at the sneak, for me, my favorite thing about water and what makes it so good, yes, they've got some really good sneak cards, like the Shark. This is fantastic because it gets 3 damage at like level 5, which no other one does. So like I'll show you what I mean. You look at the Shark here at level 5, which means that in Silver League you can get 3 damage, 3 HP. You compare that to its friend, the Pelacor Bandit. At level 5, it is still at 2 damage. It only gets level 3 damage at like in Gold League. But yeah, you kind of want that extra damage point, especially because with water we don't get extra damage. We only get extra speed and extra armor. But what I really like about the water is that it's ridiculous, but your front line can be so strong for like super cheap. So the first thing to your front line is this Tidebiter card. So this is your position 2. It's 3 mana. It doesn't attack the back line. It's only going to attack the front line, but it's going to just contribute so much because it's a little bit protected. It's got lots of speed, lots of damage, lots of HP. And then you can just combine it with, where's that little guy? Yeah, this Cruel Cethropod. 2 damage, 6 armor, 6 HP, bad speed. But because we're going to increase its speed and its armor, for 3 mana, you're going to get, or for 6 mana, if you combine 2 cards together, you get 5 damage. I'm going to ignore the speed. But then you'll get 8 armor, because you'll get +1 here, +1 on the one below. 6 HP here, plus 5 HP. So you've got 5 damage. You'll have 5 damage, 8 armor, 11 HP frontline for 6 mana. It's so strong. So you play the Cethropod, you play the Tidebiter, and then you play your Saber Shark, your Pelacor Bandit, maybe your Feasting Seaweed, but I would actually skip that and then just go straight to your neutral cards, play the Elven Cutthroat, and then play the Snake. And you have a super powerful sneak attack combo, really thick front line, and then 4 really quick, like super quick attacking sneak cards. And then finally, probably arguably the best of the best, and that's purely because of a card I don't own, but purely because of a Lorna Shine. Like this card giving Divine Shield just makes the game busted. Plus it's 3 mana. But if you can't afford her, you then will just have to play the Thyrus, which is giving the +1 armor, which is then just creating a strategy very similar to Kyla, so very similar vibes. But if you can afford the Lorna Shine, you could argue that this is the best stealth combo in the game. And then what you have is you have your Feral Spirit, super quick HP, good damage, decent HP. So you got your Feral Spirit, premium. Cave Slug I would honestly skip because it's got just bad speed, and for that kind of mana you'd rather than just get the Snake and the Elven Cutthroat in neutral. You've got your Stitch Lich, plus you've got a Cestral Harpy, and then if you don't, even if you want to skip if you want to skip having a frontline tank, you can either just use the Blinding Reflector, or you could pick up a Pedicle Conjurer, and then in position 2 you can just add in a little Dax. Where's Dax? There he is. And you can just add a little Dax Paragon, but later game, like if you're playing lots of mana, you can even play a Silver Shield Assassin, but for 7 mana, not worth. What you want to do is when you're playing super low mana games with the Lorna Shine, you get that 1 extra mana compared to fire and water. You also guarantee that you can get 2 attacks off when they're only going to get 1 because of your Divine Shield, because they won't have Blast or Explosion. And then you have your Feral Spirit, your Stitch Lich, your Harpy, and then your Elven Cutthroat and your Snake, and then whatever frontline you can afford. Or even if you don't want the frontline, you could just put in the 2 free cards and then just let them be like duds. Super strong sneak card combination. But yeah, hope this video helps, and let me know how it goes, and good luck cheesing people with sneak. All the best. Maybe in the next video, if you guys want, I'll give you guys game examples. Catch you guys soon. Bye.